Hi FlossTube, it's Bree here with Bree's Stitchin' Stuff, and welcome back to my channel. Today is a little bit different video. We're doing cross stitch hoops. So I had asked in two FlossTube video, or I think the last FlossTube video that I actually did, I asked for suggestions on a hoop that will hold my tension on my fabric better. So I stitch with a lap stand with the hoop attached, and I stitch two-handed. And up until this point I had tried the off-brand of Q-Snap. I didn't care for it. And then I had gotten a couple of embroidery hoops just from a big box store. They're flimsy, and I tried like the spring tension one, and I just didn't care for the tension that was in my fabric throughout my stitching, and I just needed something that would hold up a little bit longer, a little bit better, more sturdy, and something that was actually very sturdy feeling, good quality product. So thanks to all of you guys so much for the tons of comments about different brands, different places to find some. It meant so much that you guys took the time out of your day to help me out, so thank you. So my goal was to find a great hoop under $15. So there were a couple other suggestions on some hoops in my last FlossTube that were over the $15 mark. So I did not purchase those ones at this time. I only have so much money every month I get to spend on my crafty stuff. So I wanted to buy as many hoops as I could without spending a ton of money. So somebody did suggest the company Snuggly Monkey Crafts on Etsy. So I ran over to her Etsy shop, and I was able to find 4 different brands of hoops on her shop. And 2 of them were brands that people had mentioned multiple times, and the other 2 were 2 that I decided to pick out for myself. So in this video, I'm just going to go over each hoop and explain to you what I personally felt the quality of the hoop was for my version of stitching. So what I did was I worked on the same project, well, the same 2 projects with all my hoops. I spent 1 hour on each project per hoop. So one of my projects was on a 32 count linen, and my other project was on a 32 count Lugana. And just so that kind of had, like, I'm not a scientist, but I kind of had my, I'm working on the same project for each of them, so I thought that would be a great way to test to see exactly how it works. So let's get started. So the first one I used was this 8-inch embroidery hoop. This is Superiority Quality Wood by Frank A. Edmonds. That is what it's titled on her shop. These are all prices on the Snuggly Monkey Etsy shop, so I'm not sure if it's common. I'm assuming that's a pretty common price for all these, just to let you know. So on her shop it was $6. So this one is made of wood, and it has a brass screw on top with a rubber stopper here. It's your typical size screw that you would get in any embroidery hoop that you find at any store. I will say it's super high quality brass up here though. Like, these pieces are not flimsy at all. They're attached to the wood wonderfully. So you don't feel like you're bending or moving anything as you're screwing it tighter or looser. The entire hoop is made of wood, and it is really sturdy. I mean, there's like no give hardly at all to the wood. It has been completely rounded on all edges on the inner and outer hoop. Very smooth all the way around. There's no snags, there's no cracks, nothing like that. It's really nice. It's really pretty. It held the tension pretty well throughout on both the fabrics. I like my fabric to be like a drum, pretty tight. And after an hour on both the linen and Lugana, there was a slight give, but it wasn't enough to where I had to retighten my fabric, which is what I was looking for. And it's very lightweight, so if you do hold it in hand while you stitch, it's very light. It's about the same diameter around as any normal wooden hoop that you would get. I don't hold a hoop while I stitch, so I'm not really sure on that. It is small, so I would assume you would get a little bit of fatigue in your hand after time. This is your typical screw here, so I will say one night I was using it and my hands were pretty sore, and it was a little cumbersome trying to loosen it up and tighten it. But that's just my hands, and that's what I'm trying to find, something a little bit more forgiving for my hands. But this is a fantastic hoop. I really did enjoy using it, and I'm glad that I have this in my stitchy box of fun stuff. It did leave your typical lines on both the fabrics after you took the hoop off, but nothing real extreme on the crease on that. So fantastic hoop. I really do. I do like it, and I love this. I love an 8-inch hoop. I think this is a really good diameter for stitching in, so that's a great one. The next one I got, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, Layson, something like that. And this is a hoop that was made in Japan. It's tiny though, so it's just 6 inches in diameter. This was the biggest on her Etsy shop that I could find. This retails at $13. It's made of wood, and there is no screw, which I was very excited about. It actually just, you pull this down here and it loosens it up so that you can pull the interior hoop out. So I love that feature. Again, it's made out of wood and wonderful quality. There's not much give to the wood. There is no cracks on it. It does stamp the size in centimeters on the inside, which is really nice because then you kind of remember how big it is. The edges are mostly rounded. There are a couple spots where it wasn't sanded down quite as nice as like the F.A. Edmonds one, but there's no snags, so it wasn't a huge deal. It is a bit of a pain to get used to using on your fabric just because it's a little awkward to set it up. So how I do my hoops, which I know everybody does them a little bit different, I like the inner hoop on the back of my fabric and the outer hoop on the front of my fabric. So with this one though, because the interior hoop has the loosening part, you kind of have to maneuver it a little bit so that you get the fabric over it nice, loosen it up, put the top hoop on, you know, and you do have to kind of pull the fabric all the way around to make sure that it stays so it's nice and taut and straight. But I will say, after a couple of times, it's a lot easier to do, but this hoop held the tension the entire time without any issues at all. It didn't change on either of my fabrics for an hour of stitching, which I thought was fantastic. I did notice on stitching that this part here, the fabric does kind of sit a little weird in that spot, so I was just making sure that this was in my clamp part when I was stitching so that it wasn't a big deal. You know, it was on a part of a fabric that it didn't need to have a lot of stitching going on anyways because it was being held by the clamp. So I guess I would say if you're going to use this, if you're stitching in hand, put that where your hand would go. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, it didn't change the tension of it. It just was like a little weird looking over here. I noticed because I was like inspecting every single one of these hoops to see how it worked. So I loved it. If I can find a bigger one online of this brand like this, I will definitely be buying it. I would love an 8-inch version of this one, but it's a great hoop, so I really like this one. This one left some lines on the fabric after I took it off from the stitching, but nothing crazy, no weird spots that seemed like it wouldn't come out. And then the next one I worked on was a Morgan 7-inch no slip hoop. This one's made of plastic, and it was also made in the USA. So here we go on that one. I love how they set up the screw part up here. It's kind of like is it like a nut of some kind? Which makes it really nice and easy to loosen and tighten. You can kind of do it with one hand. It's really cool. This screw part is very long though, so just be observant of that. I did notice I had, when I was flipping, because I flip my hoop down when I'm, you know, doing the back part, I'd get my thread or my fabric would get caught up on the edge of that just because it sticks out pretty far. But it wasn't anything crazy. It was just because I moved my hoop when I am pin stitching in the back or whatever. Then when you open it, the inside hoop has a bit of a ridge where if you can see that right there, where it kind of dips down into it. And then on the outer hoop, there's a spot that right here, this little line right here, it sticks out further and it goes into the ridge of the inner hoop, which is supposed to help hold all the fabric in tighter as you tighten it up. And it does. It held the fabric great. There was a little bit of give on both the linen and the Lugana after an hour, but it wasn't enough to where I had to adjust the fabric at all. It was just a little bit looser than how it started, but it wasn't like sagging or anything like that. This one was very easy to get the fabric on and off. Again, there was a little bit of a line after I took the hoop off from the fabric, but you're going to get that with all hoops. I do like the larger screw part here for sure. That was a bonus. I'm not a huge fan of the plastic material they use on the hoops. I really like a wood hoop, but this is extremely sturdy. It's light. I would think in hand it would be a pretty easy thing to use. I'd probably hold this part though, just because it does it is big. This is a big spot, so it does kind of throw off the balance of the hoop. So I'd probably hold that if I was using it in hand. Yeah, it's great. There's a couple little spots though where like the plastic connects, where you can feel like little snaggy kind of feelings. So it's not totally smooth, but I don't think it would be enough to damage the fabric. But I don't know, again, I'm pretty new to cross stitch, so I'm not sure how that would work over time, like repetitive use, but it's a great hoop. This one sells for $12.50 if I didn't say that. So again, great quality, made in the USA, if that's important to you, and it holds attention. So another great hoop that I found. And then the last one I tried, this was on Snuggly Monkey's Etsy shop. This was our best seller, so I grabbed it just to see, and it's Even So, I think it is the brand, Eversewn. It's a 7-inch plastic hoop. This one retails for $8. So this one is super cute and fantastic. This is probably my favorite part out of all of my hoops that I got that has a screw. I love this. You don't have to pinch it to make it work. You literally can use one finger to loosen it up and tighten it. It's very sturdy feeling. The plastic is really nice. It's very lightweight. There are no little snaggy pieces at all on here where the plastic connects or anything like that. None of it snags at all. This one has a very deep ridge in the inner hoop here, where your fabric is supposed to sit down in there. Very deep. And then the outer hoop is completely beveled on the inside to fit into that ridge on the inner hoop. This held the fabric really nice. There was a slight give after an hour, but nothing where I had to re-tighten it or anything like that. And yeah, I really like it. The only thing about this one that I have a hard time with is you have to loosen this up a lot in order to get it to come out of the inside, because the ridge is so deep. You do have to loosen it up quite a bit, which isn't a big deal, but just a kind of heads up type of thing. But I really like it, and it's nice and sturdy feeling. I really like that too. And this is just my favorite part of it altogether, and it's super cute. That cute little bird in this color. This is 7 inches. There was a slight line on the fabric, probably a little bit more noticeable, I thought, on this one than the other ones. I don't know if it's because it has that super deep ridge, so it really gets stuck in there. But it was gone pretty quickly after I took it out of the hoop, so it wasn't like a huge issue. Like, I don't think it wouldn't not iron out type of thing. So a great hoop. Again, this part is very heavy, so you probably want to hold it over here to kind of keep it more even feeling in the weight. But really enjoyed this hoop as well. So All 4 of the hoops are great. So I can't thank you guys enough for, like I said, taking the time and giving suggestions on what kind of hoops to get and try out. I really, really like every single one of them. I will use all of them interchangeably, depending on what I feel like using that day. So if you guys have any questions or comments about these hoops, go ahead and leave them down below. I also have my email down below and my Instagram, so you can message me over there as well if you guys have any questions. But yeah, I hope this helped any stitchers out there, especially you guys, are us newer ones who are still learning so much about all the different tools that there are out there for cross stitch. And hoops are pretty a big deal if you're stitching with a hoop, because it holds your fabric. So thank you again for joining me today and being part of my cross stitch journey. I really appreciate it, and I hope this helped somebody out there in the cross stitch world. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and until next time, bye.